Here's the truth. You've been standing at a door that was never going to open for you. And the reason it hurts so much isn't the door. It's how long you've been willing to stand there. The person who walked away from you, I know the story. You've told it to yourself 5,000 times. You've edited it. You've softened the endings. You've searched it for the exact word, the exact moment, the exact thing you could have done differently. Let me tell you something nobody's had the nerve to tell you yet. They're not standing at that door anymore. They walked into another room a long time ago. And you're still there, with your hand on the handle in the dark, waiting for a knob to turn that was never going to turn in your direction. Now who, my friend, is really trapped in that room? Listen, we don't experience life. We experience the life we focus on. There's a million things happening in this room right now. The hum of the light above you, the pressure of the chair against your back, the sound of your own breathing, the quiet pound of your own heart, the temperature of the air on your skin. And you'll notice almost none of it until I name it. Nothing changed. The room didn't change. The air didn't change. Your focus changed. And in that single second, your entire experience of this room changed. That's not philosophy. That's the whole secret of being human, right there. It's not what happens to you. It's what you choose to point your attention at. And the person who left you, they don't get a vote in that. They never did. You've heard the phrase, take back your power. It sounds like something from a poster, doesn't it? Something you'd see on a gym wall next to a lion. But I'll tell you what it actually is. It's not a feeling. It's a decision. It's the most mechanical, unglamorous, ordinary decision you will make today. And it will do more for your life than any conversation with that person ever could. And I believe this with everything I know. You don't need them to come back to take your power back. In fact, the day you stop needing them to come back is the day you finally have it. So let me show you the machine, because there is a machine. There's an invisible architecture underneath every human life, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. And you'll never again be a victim of your own mind for more than a few minutes at a time. If you want to take the island, you got to burn your boats. There's an old story, a general, an army, a shoreline. They cross the water, they land on the island, and the first order he gives is to set their own boats on fire. Every soldier watches his way home burn, and they look at him like he's insane, and he tells them, there is no way back. The only direction that exists now is forward. And you know what that army did? That army took the island. Why? Because the man who knows he can retreat will retreat, not on purpose. He'll dress it up as strategy. He'll tell himself he's being smart, he's keeping options open, he's not being impulsive. But somewhere in the back of his mind, there's always that quiet voice whispering, you can always go back. And that voice, that one voice, has cost more dreams than any enemy ever did. Now the island here in your life, the island is your future. The boats are the stories you're still telling yourself about getting them back. The hope that isn't hope, it's a tape loop. The checking of the phone that isn't checking, it's bargaining. The rehearsal of the last conversation, where you're still searching for the perfect sentence that would have changed everything. It wouldn't have, by the way, it never would have. The sentence didn't exist, but you've been writing it every night for months. Burn it. All of it. I'm not asking you to do it gently. I'm asking you to do it completely. Because as long as the boats float at the shoreline, you will go back. You don't need more discipline. You need to take away the option. The strongest people I've ever met aren't the ones with the most willpower. They're the ones who removed the possibility of going backward. They made retreat structurally impossible. And that, my friend, is what a decision actually is. So here's the machinery I promised you. There's 3 decisions you make every moment of your life. Not 3 choices you make sometimes, when you remember to, when you're feeling strong. 3 decisions you are making right now, this second, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. And if you are not the one making them, something else is making them for you, your history, your hurt, your habit. But they're being made. Every moment of your life, they're being made. So you might as well learn their names. The first decision is, what am I going to focus on? Right now, in this second, there are a million possible objects for your mind. The sound of my voice, the memory of their face, the ache in your chest, what you're going to eat tonight, the last thing they said, the first thing you'll say tomorrow, regret, fear, hope, laundry. And out of that million, you are choosing one to put in the center. You are always choosing, and your nervous system is always watching whatever you choose. And whatever it watches, it believes is the whole world. That's the first decision. Most people never make it. They let the loudest thought sit in the center until a louder one comes along. You're going to learn to make it on purpose. That alone, that single skill, will change your life more than anything that person ever did for you. The second decision is, what does it mean? Whatever you focus on, your mind instantly reaches for a meaning. It cannot help itself. It's the meaning maker. It's been running since you were 3 years old, and it does not tolerate an empty frame. Their silence means they never cared. Their silence means they were afraid. Their silence means you were never enough. Same silence. 3 different worlds, 3 different futures. The event was identical. A person didn't speak. And you built an entire reality on top of which meaning you chose, except you didn't choose it, it chose you. It just arrived like weather, and you assumed it was the truth. It wasn't the truth. It was an interpretation wearing the truth's clothes. And the third decision is, what am I going to do about it? Given what you focused on, and given what it means, only certain actions feel possible. If you focus on the loss, and the meaning is you weren't enough, then your actions all point in one direction, toward them, waiting, begging, proving, chasing. If you focus on the lesson, and the meaning is you were set free, an entirely different set of actions opens up. The gym, the book, the call, the trip, the business, the life. Same facts. Same person who left. Different focus, different meaning, completely different set of available moves. That's the third decision. That's the whole engine. Focus. Meaning, action, 3 decisions, every moment of your life. You made them the day they left. You focused on the pain, you meant you weren't enough, you did what that made you do. And you've been making them ever since, in a loop, on autopilot, while the life you could be living waits outside the room like a patient friend. And here's the beautiful, terrifying part of it. You can't not make these decisions. Somebody is always making them. The question was never whether you'd decide. The question is who decides. You, conscious, on purpose steering, or your emotional state hijacked on autopilot running the same tape. There is no third option. There never was. And I want you to see this. I want you to feel the cost of it. Because most of us go through an entire day and never once catch ourselves deciding. The focus just happens. It's pulled here, pushed there. The meaning just happens. It arrives prepackaged from childhood, from the rooms you grew up in, from the voices that told you who you were before you ever got to vote on it. And the action just happens, and then you wonder why your life looks the way it looks. Why you keep ending up in the same room, with the same kind of person, or the same kind of silence. It's not bad luck. It's not the universe picking on you. It's the machine running on default settings, and default settings were not written by you. They were written by your past. And your past has no idea what you want now. Your past is just a habit that never got challenged. So here's the question that should terrify the comfortable part of you. How much of your life has been running on settings you never chose? How many of your last 5,000 decisions were made by the wound instead of by you? Because every minute you spend unconscious of your focus is a minute someone else's version of you gets written. Focus is the master key. Focus is the lens. Focus determines everything. And here's the second thing I want you to understand about that mind of yours, because it's doing something right now that it calls honesty and is actually sabotage. You've had tens of thousands of thoughts today. By tonight, you'll remember maybe a handful. The thought you repeated, the one about them, you'll remember that one. Not because it's true, because you rehearsed it. You rehearsed it 3,000 times. And the brain has a rule. What you repeat becomes real. It doesn't check. It doesn't fact check. It pattern matches. And you've been drilling that thought like an athlete drills a jump shot, except the jump shot goes in and that thought just keeps you on the floor. A thought you rehearse is not a fact. It's a habit. And habits can be replaced. You want to know how your mind keeps the loop alive? How it keeps you kneeling at a door that's locked. 2 operations: distortion and deletion. That's all it takes. Your mind deletes whatever doesn't fit the story you're telling, and it distorts whatever's left so it fits perfectly. The 3 good years? Compressed to a single sentence, then deleted from the highlight reel. The 5 times they actually showed up, actually chose you, actually reached for your hand, distorted into proof that they never really cared, because the story needs them to have never cared. Otherwise, the ending doesn't make sense. And the mind hates a senseless ending more than it hates the truth. So it rewrites you a version where you were fooled, where you were never enough, where you were the fool. You are not remembering that relationship, my friend. You are remembering a cut, recut, color-corrected film about that relationship. And you're the director. You always were. Nobody else had access to the editing room. So what's behind the story? It's your state. It's your mental, your emotional state. And this is the part people miss. You have been trying to solve this problem with your head, and your head is underwater. You can't think your way out of a low state, and you can't argue yourself out of an emotion, and you can't reason your way past a nervous system that believes it's in danger. State comes first. The story always follows the state. When you feel small, you reach for a memory that proves you're small, and the memory obliges. It's right there waiting. It will do anything you ask. And when you feel strong, watch this. When you feel strong and you reach for the same memory, you'll suddenly see what it actually was. A person who couldn't meet you. A person who was terrified of closeness and bolted when it got real. Not a judgment of your worth. A piece of information about their wiring. Same memory. Two different worlds. Your state picked the world. And the story locks the state in, and the state confirms the story. And that loop is the whole prison. You can break it at either end, but the fastest way, the simplest way is the state. Move the body. Change the breath. Change what you feed your eyes. The state moves, and the story has to follow. Now let me be honest with you, because you came here with a title on your mind, and you deserve the answer straight. Every avoidant person, every man or woman who loved you from a distance and then couldn't stay, every one of them wishes you'd do one thing after the rejection. And I'm going to tell you the part that hurts first, because you deserve the truth and not the comfort. They don't think about you as much as you think about them. It's not cruelty, it's wiring. They made a decision years ago, long before they met you, probably before they could even name it, that closeness is dangerous, that meeting someone is the fastest road to being hurt, that the only safe position in the game is slightly outside the game. So they push, and the push was never about you. It was never about your worth, your adequacy, your lovability. It was about a decision they made at 5, at 12, at 17, in a room you were never in. They push people away, and then they wait. And here's the part that's actually tragic. They wait to see if the person will stay anyway. They test the love by trying to break it. And then they're shocked when it breaks. But here's what they wish you would do. And this is the answer to your title, so listen carefully. They wish you would stop negotiating. Because your chasing gives their wiring exactly what it needs. Proof that distance works. Every time you text, every time you ask why, every time you offer to wait, to be patient, to accept less, you hand them the argument that holding people at arm's length costs them nothing. You're training them to stay away. You're doing their fierce homework for them. And the single most generous thing you could ever do for an avoidant person, and here's the uncomfortable twist, is become the one person who doesn't chase. The only experience that has ever cracked that pattern open in anyone is watching someone they pushed away walk away into a full, lit-up life without them. That's the only mirror that ever made an avoidant look, not your pleas. Your absence that isn't a threat, isn't a game, isn't manipulation. An absence that's just you alive, committed to your own life. When you become that, two things happen. Either they come back as a different person into a different relationship, or, and this is the one nobody tells you, you stop caring whether they come back at all. Both outcomes are freedom. You can't lose what you deserve. It's not ability, it's motive. People keep telling you you should be over this by now, and you feel like a failure, like you're weak, like everyone else gets over things and you don't. Here's the truth, it's not ability, it's motive. You don't lack the capacity to move on. You lack a reason strong enough to want to. Your nervous system still believes this person is the source of safety, the source of worth, the source of the future you'd pictured. And as long as they're the source in the story, your motive to heal will always lose to your motive to get them back. So you don't need more time. You don't need another month. You need a new source. And there is only one thing that can become the new source of your own life. You. Which brings me to something personal, because I don't tell you any of this from a mountaintop, and I don't want you to think for 1 second that I arrived here without burning. I began with anger. I grew up in a house with a man who made my mother cry every single day, and I was a kid full of rage, and that rage was fuel. It pushed me. It made me read, made me study, made me swear I would never become him. And for years that fuel worked. It got me moving when nothing else would. But here's what I learned about rage. It burns everything, including the one holding it. It doesn't last. It can't. There came a day when the fuel had to change, not because I got weak, because I got tired of burning. And that day, the day the fuel changed, was the turning point of my whole life. The change wasn't from anger to nothing. It was from push to pull. Push will get you started. Push will get you through a year, maybe 5. But nobody runs a marathon on push. Nobody builds a life on the fuel of getting even or getting back. At some point, you need something pulling you forward. A future so alive it tugs at your chest in the morning. And when that pull arrives, you don't need the anger anymore. The anger can rest. The rejection that woke you up can rest too. You didn't get this pain to punish yourself with it. You got it to change the fuel. So what changes the fuel? What turns push into pull? It's a decision, and it almost never announces itself. It shows up dressed like a breaking point. And for a lot of you listening right now, that moment is closer than you think, because something shifted in you recently, and you haven't named it yet. The anger at them stopped feeling good. The sadness stopped feeling precious. Even the fantasy of them walking back through the door started feeling like a job you have to show up to. That's not depression, my friend. That's the chapter trying to end. And when a chapter tries to end, most of us grip it harder, because endings feel like death before they feel like doors. But endings are just a story's way of clearing the stage. And there's a new act waiting. There's always a new act waiting. Now here's the second truth about what they wish you'd do, and this one goes deeper than the first. They wish you'd finally see who you were actually in love with, because the person you're grieving was never fully real. You weren't in love with them. You were in love with the version of them that could hold all the love you were ready to give. You built that version out of glimpses, out of their best 3 hours, out of the person they were in the beginning, when everyone is at their best, out of what you needed to believe. And then you fell in love with your own construction. I'm not saying they didn't matter. I'm saying they were two people, the one they showed you, and the one they were when the door closed. And the one you're missing was the first one. The second one is the one who left. It's like you wrote letters to a house that was never built, and you're still standing at the empty lot, waiting for the mail. The relationship you want never existed, and there's freedom in that once you let it land. You're not grieving a loss. You're grieving an invention, and you can stop funding an invention anytime. You're the one who's been paying its bills. The love you felt was real, absolutely real. It was yours. It was genuine. It was proof of your capacity to give. But the object was a mirage. And you don't lose a capacity when a mirage disappears. You keep the muscle. The muscle was always the point. But here's the thing. I'm not telling you to become cold. And this is where most people overcorrect. They decide people are the problem, love is a trap, and they board the whole thing up. That's the bathtub, my friend. That's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. One avoidant person convinced you that closeness is dangerous, and now you're going to become the thing that hurt you. You're going to build a wall to protect yourself from ever feeling this again, and that wall is going to keep out every person who could have loved you, including the one who was always going to stay. That's the most expensive version of this lesson. It turns you into the next person who can't hold on. Don't give them that. Don't let the person who couldn't meet you become the reason you never meet anyone. The pain was a signal, not a sentence. It was the price of entry, not the admission fee for a lifetime of distance. Because the truth about becoming unshakable isn't one grand moment, it's reps. You've heard me say this about Steph Curry. 500 shots a day, 7 days a week, 15 years and change, more than 2 million shots, 3,600 makes in the games that mattered. 10% of 1% of the shots he ever took won championships. And you know what he is when you strip it all down. He's a guy who refused to let a bad game change the reps. He's the greatest shooter who ever lived, and he got there by being boring on purpose. Now here's the part that should land on you like a brick. You've been doing reps too. Every time you replay the conversation, that's a rep. Every time you check the phone, that's a rep. Every time you tell the story to a friend and wait for them to confirm you were wronged, that's a rep, my friend. You've been shooting 500 times a day at a basket that's losing you the game. You're the most consistent player on the court. You just pointed all that consistency at the wrong hoop. Nobody's going to fix that for you. The reps are yours. They always were. You want to know why you keep going back to the tape, even though the tape contains no new information. I'll tell you why. Because the tape is the only place left where you still exist to them. In the story, you matter. In the story, you're central. In the story, they feel the loss of you exactly the way you always hoped they would, and they regret it, and they come back, and this time they stay. Out here in reality, there's only silence. So your mind keeps choosing the story, because the story pays you in the one currency you're starving for, being seen. And I'll tell you the hard part, the part nobody frames on a poster, you can't starve that need into silence. You have to feed it somewhere real. You have to become seen by people who are actually in the room. The need isn't wrong. The need is the most human thing about you. The delivery system is what's broken. So it's not moving on, it's moving toward. Moving on sounds like leaving something behind, and you don't have to leave anything. The relationship already ended. It did its work, it's dust. You're not leaving, you're catching up to the version of you that's already ahead, already built, already breathing, waiting for you to arrive. Moving toward is a direction. Moving on is a verdict. You don't need a verdict, you need a direction. If you focus on what you can't control, your energy goes there. It floods into their phone, their silence, their next move, their new life, and it dies there because you can't touch a single thing in that room. If you focus on what you can control, your energy goes to your breath, your body, your work, your door, the life you can actually open, and it grows there because everything in that room is yours. Both worlds exist. The external one we can only influence, the internal one we control. And the mind, left to its own wiring, always drifts toward the world it can't change. Because the world it can't change is the world it's afraid of. And fear is a spotlight. It points at the monster and keeps it lit. It's like the radio in your kitchen, tuned to a station that stopped broadcasting years ago. You hear static, and you call it a song. You can't change the station. You can't find a new signal. You can't even remember what music sounds like anymore. But the dial is in your hand, my friend. It was always in your hand. You've just been sitting in that kitchen for months, holding the dial, naming static a song. So here's what actually changes the fuel. You stop waiting to feel different, and you start the reps. But knowing that isn't enough, and I don't want to leave you with a slogan where you need a machine, because there's one more layer under this, one more room in the architecture, and it's the one that makes people quietly cry when they finally see it. And I want you to walk into it slowly. So breathe and come with me, and I want you to see this. I want you to sit with it for a second, because it's going to feel like a hand on your shoulder, and some of you haven't felt a hand in a long time. If you suffered as a kid, if your house was loud or empty, if you had a parent who was there but never there, if you carried a loneliness to bed every single night, you might still be carrying it. You think the pain of this rejection is new. It isn't. It's old. It's wearing different clothes and using a different voice, but you have met this pain before. You met it when you were small, and you made a deal with it that day. You decided, the way children decide, that you were the problem. That's what kids do, you know. They make a chaotic world make sense by making themselves the cause. And you've been paying on that loan ever since. Every rejection, confirming it. Every silence confirming it. Every person who left collecting another payment on the belief that you weren't enough. Now that's the part that hurts, and I won't pretend it doesn't. But here's the part that heals, and I want you to hear it slowly, because this is the release. What you called a wound was doing double duty. It wasn't only pain, it was training. It was a handbook of survival in disguise. The fact that you were alone in childhood means that as an adult you are self-sufficient. The fact that nobody was in your corner means you learned early that the corner has to be built by you. The fact that you couldn't rely on anyone means you can work alone, you can stand alone, you can build without applause. I know this because I had no one in my corner. And I had a choice. I could let that be a life sentence, or I could make it a skill. It's like a psychological superposition you need to hold in your head at the same time. The wound and the gift, the scar and the strength, the little kid in the old room and the person standing here now looking back at them. And I want you to see that kid. I want you to look at them and say, I'll carry you from here. You don't have to carry me anymore. That's a decision, not a feeling. And for a lot of you, it's the first decision of your real life, because everything before it was just survival. And survival is not the same as living, not even close. Now let me give you the drill. And I'm going to be very specific, because the specific is the only thing that ever worked. This is non-negotiable. For the next 24 hours, one day, that's all I'm asking. Every time you catch yourself reaching for the loop, every time your hand goes for the phone, every time you start replaying the conversation, every time you feel the pull to open the wound and check if it's still bleeding, you don't fight it and you don't follow it. You break it. 90 seconds. That's the whole assignment. You stand up, literally, you stand up and you change your physiology. You open your chest, you roll your shoulders back, you put your hands on your hips like you own the air in the room, and you take 5 slow breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, slower than it's comfortable to go. And while you breathe, you say one sentence to yourself out loud if there's nobody around to look at you funny. I'm not going there. I'm going here. And when you say here, you name it. Here's the book on the table. Here's the call you've been avoiding. Here's the run. Here's the project. Here's the person in front of you who actually stayed. Then you do one physical thing, one step toward that here, one page, one push-up, one dial, and the loop is broken. 90 seconds. That's the machine. Now, you want to know why that works? You want to know how a breathing drill beats a breakup? Because the loop doesn't live in your thoughts. It lives in your chest. It lives in your shoulders. It lives in the collapse of your posture and the shallow pace of your breathing. Your body went into that slump the day they left, and it's never come back up since. And here's the law. The story can't survive in an open, breathing, upright body. Try it right now. Try to convince yourself you're worthless with your chin up, your shoulders back, your breath full. You can't do it. It's physically absurd. The state runs the story, and you just learned you can run the state. That's the first time in months you've been the one driving. Now here's the meaning behind the drill, because a drill without meaning is just calisthenics. What you're doing in those 90 seconds is teaching your nervous system that the loop is not mandatory, that the thought is not a command, that the phone is not a leash. Every time you break it, you cast a vote for who you're becoming. And after a few hundred votes, something strange happens. It stops being effort. It becomes boring. The loop starts to look like what it has always been, an old movie you've seen 400 times, with a predictable ending and a hero who never wins. And you'll walk past it the way you walk past a channel you've stopped watching. You don't argue with the channel. You don't get angry at the channel. You just don't choose it anymore. That's not suppression, that's selectiveness. And selectivity is the whole art of a life on your terms. Now listen to me carefully, because I want you to hear what a real unlock looks like. You think you need discipline. It's not discipline, it's meaning. Willpower is a rumor, my friend. The research was honest with all of us about this. Nobody sustains anything on willpower. Willpower is emergency fuel, and it's out of gas by Tuesday. What sustains is pulled, not pushed. You don't become the person who gets over this by gritting your teeth indefinitely. You become that person by finding a reason so strong that the old story can't survive contact with it. And here's what I've seen across 5 million people. The reason almost never starts with I. It starts with someone else. I don't think so. The strongest reasons always point outward. Find something you care about more than yourself, and you won't need willpower. You won't need discipline. You'll be pulled. That's the difference between surviving and being alive. One is a push, one is a pull, and you've been pushing for months. Time to be pulled. There's an old line from a book you might not open, but I'll tell it to you anyway, because it stayed with me my whole life. From those to whom much is given, much is required. And I want you to hear that in your own story. You've been given a lot, my friend. You've been given pain that most people spend their whole lives running from. You've been given a front row seat to your own wiring. You've been given the hardest lesson intimacy teaches, that your worth never belonged to them. Some people live 70 years and never learn that lesson. You're learning it at the price of one heartbreak. That's a bargain. Now, what does that mean to you? It means you now have something to give. I remember Jim Carrey, my friend Jim, saying that everybody should want to be rich and famous just so they could find out that it's not the answer. I think he's right. It's not about the money. It's about the discovery. And it's the same with this. Maybe you needed this heartbreak not to suffer, but to find out finally, with your whole body, that they were never the source. Pain that teaches you that is not a loss. It's tuition. And tuition is only wasted when you never attend the class. There's a ladder, and it's worth knowing it, because knowing where you stand on it is half the climb. Right now, most of you are on the first rung, unconscious incompetence. You don't even know you're doing it. The loop runs in silence. You think the grief is just the grief, that the replay is just memory, that the checking is just habit. That's the first rung, and there's no shame in it, but there's no freedom in it either. Then one day, and that day might be today, you move to the second rung. Conscious incompetence. You see the loop. You watch your own hand reach for the phone. You feel the story start, and you know it's a story, and you still can't stop it. That's the hard rung, my friend. That's where most people quit, because it feels like getting worse. It's not getting worse, it's getting visible. Then, the third rung, conscious competence. You catch it, and you run your 90 seconds, and you open your chest, and you name your here, and it works. It costs you something, but it works. And then the fourth rung, unconscious competence. It's automatic. It's who you are now. Someone could walk away from you and you'd feel it, absolutely. You'd feel it and it wouldn't end you. It wouldn't run you. It would just be a chapter, a real sad, important chapter. And you'd turn the page, because turning pages is what you do now. And let me be clear, that's not cold. That's the opposite of cold. That's the alive version of you. The cold version of you was the one who stopped feeling anything at all. This version feels everything and keeps walking. That's the whole difference. And I'll leave you with this for now. You keep waiting for the conversation that will close the loop. The explanation. The apology. The final scene, written properly, where they finally say the words you needed. It's not closure from them. It's completion from you. They will never give you the ending you deserve, because endings were never their department. Their department was leaving. Your department is arriving. You're the author of this last chapter, and the last chapter is the one everyone remembers. 10 years from now, nobody is going to ask you how the relationship ended, my friend. They're going to ask you what you became. And that answer is written in the reps you do between today and then. So where does that leave you? It leaves you at the start of the only story that has ever mattered, your own. You've been reading someone else's. It's time to write. The hero's journey. You've heard the phrase, it's everywhere now, in every game and every movie and every podcast, but let me tell you what it actually is, because it's not a plot, it's a map. It starts with the call. You got your call the day they left. The journey begins when you answer it. And the hero never answers the call because they're ready. They answer because the ringing won't stop. Then there's the journey. And it's not a straight line, it's a road of trials. The exact weeks you're living through right now, the old self being dismantled one rep at a time. And then there's the dragon. And here's the part everyone gets wrong. The dragon isn't them. The dragon is the fear that lives inside the story. The dragon is the belief that you're not enough, that you'll be alone forever, that this is all you get. That's the beast you have to slay. Not them. They're not even on the island anymore. They wandered off the map. And you've been standing at the cave entrance, reciting the dragon's lines for it. You don't slay the dragon by fighting it. You slay it by refusing to enter the cave. And when you walk all the way through the ordeal and come out the other side, you become the hero. You don't become the person who got rejected. You become the person who used the rejection. Same event, same hurt, two lives. One ends at the cave, one leaves it. And the only difference between them is a decision, made once, and then made again every single day. Now, life happens for you, not to you. I know. It sounds like a bumper sticker, and you're allowed to roll your eyes. But hear me, because I'm not saying it to comfort you. I'm saying it as a job description. If life happens to you, you're a victim of it, and a victim has nothing to do but wait. If life happens for you, Every event is raw material, and there's something to do. Figure out what it's for. Your job isn't to feel better. Your job is to figure it out. Life doesn't owe you an explanation. It owes you a lesson, and it's already delivered it. Your part is the unpacking, and the unpacking is the work, and the work is the healing. There's no shortcut that skips the unpacking. There's only a shortcut that skips the suffering, and that shortcut is called denial, and it doesn't lead anywhere you want to live. And now here's the turn I've been building toward. The part that changes everything. Because up to now, everything we've talked about has been about you, your state, your focus, your story, your reps, and that's the necessary work. It's the foundation, but it's not the destination. It's the runway. Because the fastest way to take your power back, the fastest way to feel whole, is not to spend more time on yourself. It's to give what you needed. There's a woman or a man somewhere right now, a friend, maybe, or someone you know only from across a room, or a stranger who will never know your name, going through exactly what you're going through. Standing at their own closed door, rehearsing their own tape, checking their own phone, and they don't have anyone who's walked through it. You have something they don't. You have the map. And here's the strange, stubborn law of this whole thing. The moment you start pulling someone else up the mountain, your own footing becomes sure. It's like you can't feel empty with your hands full. You can't stay a victim in your own story while you're helping someone write their rescue. Find the person, my friend. They're closer than you think. Every single one of you has a friend who is one conversation away from the dark version of this. And the thing about the dark version is that it doesn't need to be dramatic. It's quiet, it's slow, it's lonely. You can be the one who shows up first. You've been given the exact words they need because you needed them first. That's what the whole ordeal was for. That's the gift at the end of the journey. The gift is never for the hero. The gift is for the people waiting at the edge of the map. I've worked with 5 million people, and the ones who change aren't the smartest. They're not the fastest. They're not the luckiest. They're the ones who refuse to settle, the ones who decide, at some unglamorous moment on a random Tuesday, that the story ends here, and then keep deciding it every day until it becomes true. And I'm telling you the same thing now. It's not being positive, it's being intelligent. Positive thinking tells you to feel good about what happened. Intelligent thinking asks the only question that matters. What is this for? What can this build? What do I control from here? And it answers you with the one thing hope can't give you, a direction. Hope is a feeling. Direction is a plan. And a plan is just a decision with a schedule. And one more thing, and then I'm going to let you go, and you have work to do. You can't control whether they come back. And I want you to hear this. You can't even control whether you miss them. You can't control what you do while you miss them. That's the country you rule. That's your jurisdiction, my friend. Both worlds exist. The world where they left and the world where you rose. Okay? And you only get to govern one of them. So govern it like you mean it. Govern it like someone's life depends on it. Because yours does. Gratitude. I know the word is tired, and I know the memes ruined it. But I'm not talking about the forced kind, the journaling kind you do out of obligation. I'm talking about the practice of noticing what's still true. You woke up today. There's food in your future. There are people who stayed. There's a version of you a year from now, walking differently, breathing differently, who is going to look back on this exact day with something close to relief, maybe even gratitude, because this day, this heartbreak, is what finally got them off the floor. You can feel that day now, if you practice feeling it. That's not delusion, that's anticipation. And anticipation is a decision about the future made from the present, right now. So here's where we land. They left. That's the fact. And I'm not going to insult you by pretending it doesn't matter. It matters. It hurt. It changed the shape of the room you're standing in. But the room is yours. The door is yours. The dial is in your hand. The boats are burning on the shore behind you, and the island is ahead, and there's somebody on that island who needs who you're about to become. The person who walked away from you gave you a gift they never intended to give. They returned your attention to the only life you can actually change. They gave you back to you. And now, you owe it to you to become who you really are, not the one who got left, the one who arrived. And when you arrive, and you will, my friend, you will because you were never the problem, You are just the one who'd never been shown the dial. You'll understand what I've been telling you with your whole chest. You don't experience life. You experience the life you focus on. Focus on the wound, and the wound is everywhere. You'll see abandonment in every glance, rejection in every silence, and you'll be right, and you'll be miserable. Focus on the becoming, and the becoming is everywhere. You'll see teachers in every ending, fuel in every ache, and you'll be right, and you'll be alive. Both worlds are true. You get to pick which one is true for you. That's the whole game. That's all there is. Everything else is just the playing of it. Life happens for you, not to you. That's the quiet version of everything I've said. And now here's the honest one. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens one 90-second decision at a time. It happens on the days you don't want to. It happens to the person still standing in the room with their hand on the door. So decide what you're going to focus on. Decide what it means, and go. This is your hero's journey, and it starts the second you put this down. You owe it to you.